Welcome to the Alabama Department of Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention request for proposal for the program year 2019-2020. We welcome all the new applicants we have, but there are also some major changes from last year, so the previous grantees also need to pay close attention today. If you look on page 2, on our mission statement, you'll see that the main thing that we are interested in is the prevention of child maltreatment. We advocate for children and the strengthening of families. So when you write your request for proposal, this is what you need to keep in mind above all things. On the table of contents, you will see everything from the introduction all the way down through the definition of budget line items. I'm not going to read through each one of these. The one main point that I want to make is that your application must be submitted online by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Monday, May the 20th, 2019. There are no exceptions to this deadline. Do not fax or mail applications. And let me remind you, do not wait until the last minute to do this. If you have power outages or anything else that comes up, which we have had these in the past, no exemptions will be made. So please try to get it done a day or so ahead of time. Organizations must submit a separate application for each program applying for funding. You can see at the top of the page our CTF website address. This year, one of the changes is the grants will be awarded on a 13-month competitive grant application process. The reason for this is that we want to move eventually to being on the state fiscal year schedule. So be aware that this is a 13-month competitive grant this year. If you have any questions about the RFP, we would ask this year that you contact Tracy Plummer at CTF directly. Do not contact your field staff at this time. We just want Tracy to be answering all the questions, so everything will be the same for each person. Now, during the year, the program year, you will be able to contact your field staff as usual. Who is eligible? Anyone who meets the requirement of the Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code is eligible to apply. Funds will be used for prevention programs such as parenting education and support, home visiting, school-based after-school, non-school-based public awareness, mentoring, fatherhood, and respite care. There are 3 levels to the review process. The staff level, where the field staff reads your grant, the local level, where we have a local review team, and then the board level, and the board makes the final decisions. There are no appeals to the board decision. The notice of approval would be given by Sally Longshore, our executive director, electronically. The list will also be listed on our CTF website at ctf.alabama.gov in July. The application ceiling for this program year is no organization may apply for more than a total of $150,000 in competitive grants for the 2019-2020 year. Notice the Alabama and federal laws that we have to follow for grant funds from ADCAMP. They have to be used solely for the purpose of child abuse and neglect prevention for residents of Alabama and may not be expended for treatment. Make sure all your programs have a strong component of local funding for utilization of community resources, collaboration with existing prevention programs, use of community volunteers, and a percentage match of local funding and in-kind contributions. The other laws are below, but I'll just let you read through those on your own. The timeline is on our next slide. The application deadline, as I've already mentioned, is May 20th, 2019 at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Local review will be held Friday, June the 14th, and board review will be held July 8 and 9. Mandatory grantee training is also on October the 28th, 2019. You will see below that your reporting due dates and your evaluation data reports that are either due monthly or quarterly based on dates assigned by your program evaluation team. This year's funding program will begin August 1st, 2019 and end August 31st, 2020. That's different from previous years. All funds must be expended by August the 31st, and no budget revisions are allowed after July 31st, 2020. Very important area that we go to now, required background checks. And there are some changes this year. Background checks are required prior to employment and subsequently every 3 years. Any individual who works with a child 18 years or younger is required to have a background check. But in addition, this year, any individual working with an AdCamp program in any capacity is required to have a background check. Now, the reason for this is that CTF also has a fiscal responsibility, and the grantee has a fiscal responsibility to make sure that funds are used in an appropriate manner. And so this year we're expanding the need for background checks. Background checks are estimated to be about $25 per individual. And CTF does not tell you which background check company you have to use. That is up to you. Also, the required DHR Central Registry clearance. It includes all employees, including school teachers and volunteers having direct care, treatment, or responsibility for children 18 years or younger. Also, the mandatory and domestic violence training requirements are still in force. Each of these 4 clearances or trainings are due within the first 60 days of the program. Let me repeat, the background checks, DHR Central Registry clearance, mandatory reporting, and domestic violence training are all due within the first 60 days of the beginning of the program year. As each of these are completed, email your field staff to check off each staff that has had these required trainings. When the field staff comes for their first site visit, they will check to make sure that each of these items have in fact been done. If for some reason they have not been completed, an immediate corrective action program will be in force. AdCamp also reserves the right to make unannounced visits as needed. Also be aware that the grantee may be responsible for paying employees until funding is available. Funding may not be available at the beginning of the year, so just be aware that the grantee is responsible for funding until funding is available from the state to AdCamp. As far as program startup, all programs must begin activities within the first 30 days after the execution of the contract. Now, this doesn't mean you have to start having sessions if you especially are a new grantee. But what we mean by started, we mean you must have some program activities going as far as recruiting, establishing collaboration or training, etc. within the first 30 days. If for some reason you do not see your program being able to start in this manner, contact your field staff. Budget revisions will not be allowed after July the 31st, 2020. Budget revisions should be sent to your field staff and approved before any changes are made. If changes are made in your budget before it's been approved, an immediate corrective action plan will be instituted. Okay, page 11, responsibilities of the grantees. Please make sure on number 4 that you notice that you can also help us by publicizing the income tax checkoff, the Children's Trust Fund car tags, keepsake heirloom birth certificates, and any public awareness that you can do for EdCamp. These first 3, the funds they bring in go directly to the Children's Trust Fund to help in our programs. About the 8th bullet down, grantee training this year will be October the 28th, 2019, and you can use your funds to attend the training. It can be included in your budget. About 3 more bullets down, again, make sure you conduct your background checks and DHR Central Registry CAN reports. Also, about the middle of the page, please make sure that you notify Ms. Longshore, our Executive Director, and your program staff of any special incidents and reports of suspected child abuse or neglect within 24 hours of the event. If you have anything that's out of the ordinary that happens regarding your program, just be sure to let us know. We just want to make sure that our Executive Director is not blindsided by questions from the media about something that she's not ever even aware of. So if you have something that you're not sure about whether or not you should report it, go ahead and report it. Notify your field staff of any new program staff that you hire prior to their start date. And remember that all the trainings and forms that they have to have, background check, DHR, mandatory reporting, are in place for these new staff. Okay, I'm just going to let you read the rest of the responsibilities of the grantees. If you have any questions, you can contact Tracy Plummer. Also, near the bottom, about the 3rd from the left, I'm sorry, let me go one more page over here. Got behind. About the 4th bullet down, the bringing protective factors framework to life in your work. These 7 modules have to be completed, and there's a little change on that this year. This year, the main program staff person who runs each program has to do the protective factors training. Not all of your staff, but just those persons who are in charge of each program has to do the protective factors training. For those of you who are new applicants, please be aware of this. On the website, which you see there in blue, the introduction itself has 7 parts, and some people have been confused thinking that they have completed everything when they've just completed the introduction. After the introduction, there are 6 more parts you have to complete. Most people find it takes somewhere between 10 to 12 hours to complete this training, and you will be given a certificate for each part of the training that you complete, and these will be checked by your field staff when they come by on their site visits. Also, the last bullet, your mandatory reporting and domestic violence training have to be done annually. These have to be done annually. And these need to be completed or must be completed within the first 60 days. And with your background check, your DHR, your mandatory reporting, and domestic violence, you can still keep these on site, but as you complete these for the staff people that have to do these, make sure that you send an email to your field staff letting them know that these are completed. And then when they come by for their site visit, they will check to be sure that you do have these on file. Okay, on to the program funding guidelines. Primary prevention is our efforts to positively influence parents, guardians, caregivers, or children before abuse and neglect occurs. And you can see there under primary prevention services that this can be offered to all members of a population. They're voluntary, and they strive to influence societal forces that impact parents and children. And then you have secondary prevention, and this is targeted towards populations who may be at risk. And you'll see below that the type of population that we are talking about, at-risk children. On to program eligibility and requirements. I'm not going to read each one of these, but just pick out certain ones that you really need to be aware of. All of them, though, have to be completed. On number 2, each program has to conduct a minimum of 6 classes with the same clients. This is so that there will actually be enough knowledge and behavioral attitude changes that we can see that something positive is being done with the clients. Number 7, board members must not be employees from the applicant organization. In other words, you can't have somebody that's a staff member also be a board member. On number 10, applicants must be able to provide a required 50% local funds match. A minimum of this, 25%, must be in cash, and the remainder can be in-kind contributions. By cash match, we mean it could be actual cash that is donated to you, or it could be anything where cash or monetary value is transferred. For example, if you have a secretary that works basically in another program, but she donates certain hours a week to work in our program, you can count that as cash match. In-kind can be things where people donate items, or it can be they donate a place rent-free to the grant. Number 12, grantees must not supplant funds. You cannot pay someone that's paid by the state government and also be paying them while they work on your program. In addition, the CB-CAP programs have these requirements. They must attend a parent leadership training as specified and approved by ADCAMP. The program must also track the number of parent leaders in each program. And number 3, they must promote and provide opportunities for parents within their programs to provide meaningful input into the service delivery. Additional program requirements that we have, if you look at the last paragraph here, as stated before, we do strongly encourage that all funded programs incorporate a smoking cessation component. However, all programs that are funded with CFTF, Children's First Trust Fund dollars, must include this information. You can look online at tarwars.org and see the approved curriculum that can help you in this area. Finally, on page 16, your financial reporting policy. Depending on the amount of funds that you have received, determines what you must have to report your financial statements. If you receive less than $50,000, you must submit one of the following. And of course, the least costly would be an internally prepared financial statement. But if you choose to report all the way up to an audit report, you can also do that. 50 to 100,000 must submit at least a compilation report. 100 to 300,000 must submit at least a review, and all programs over 300,000 must submit an audit report. As far as ineligible services and expenses, I'm not going to read through all these, just some of the major ones that we've had questions and problems with at times. Number 3, per diem and gasoline purchases are ineligible. You can only use your actual travel expenses for reimbursement, and your mileage rate may not exceed whatever the current state rate is at that time. Number 9, food and beverages may not be used to purchase food and beverages in our regular ad count programs. Number 13 is important. Space rental costs are not allowable when the cost is assessed by the organization, which is the grantee itself. In other words, a grantee cannot rent space to themselves. If you have questions about this, please contact Tracy Plumber. So basically what we're saying is if the grantee themselves owns a building, they cannot actually in turn pay themselves with our funds for rent or for mortgage payments. As far as financial definitions, again, required matches, just to give you an example up here. If you were granted a $40,000 award, you would have to match that with a $20,000 match requirement. 10,000 of that, 20, would have to be cash match, and the rest would have to be in kind. Now, if you wish, you could fund all of it through cash match, but at least 25% of the grant must be matched with cash match. Down at the bottom of the page, volunteer services. At this time, the volunteer amount is $24.69 per hour of the set value. You can check on the independentsector.org for updates on this rate as it changes. As far as the different types of programs that we have, I'm not going to read through each one. But just in general, you have parent education and support programs, and each of these programs on number 6 has to be a minimum of 6 sessions. Again, we encourage incorporating smoking cessation whenever possible, and you will see the different types of programs that can be included. Home visiting programs, number 2, number 5 bullet on this. These programs must last a minimum of 1 hour. And number 12, these programs should also include a shaken baby or abusive head trauma prevention and safe sleep training. Number 3, public awareness training programs. Now these programs may be in this case just a one-time affair, because if you're teaching public awareness to a civics group or something like this, of course the one-time training for them would be allowable. Number 4, the respite care programs are simply programs where cash money is given to parents. For example, sometimes it may be a parent, a single care parent who has no time to themselves. Often they are parents who also have a special needs child, and these funds help them to have some time to themselves where they can have some respite times to themselves. Child-focused program components and definitions. School-based and after-school programs are programs that are based in school, where grantees go into the school and teach the children during the school time, or an after-school program at a gym of the school or something after the school hours themselves. They have to conduct a minimum of 6 curriculum units by the program staff and volunteers with the same participants. Under section B there, under school-based, body safety can be taught through grade 3, and after grade 3, the focus should be on child maltreatment programs. And you can see some of the other things that may be covered under your school base, such as internet safety, violence prevention, empathy control, impulse control, and all of these. The bottom bullet there, very important, child sexual abuse prevention, or Aaron's Law. For non-school based programs, these type programs under number 4, they have to spend 25% of their program time per session on life skills. So make sure you're aware of that. Also under section B, number 3, something that's been included, programs that address alcohol and substance abuse, opioid addiction, for example, human trafficking, gang violence, and issues with at-risk youth 8 through 17 are also allowable. Down on number 3, under mentoring programs, something I just need to mention, these are individual meetings with the mentor and mentee of a child or adolescent up to age 19. And number 5, the mentor must have a minimum of 4 contacts per month with the mentee, and contacts should be at least 1 hour in duration. And if you have any other questions on all of those other requirements or things that are allowable, you may contact Tracy Plummer. As far as your scoring grant sheet, I'm not going to read through each one of these. That you can see these. Each one are broken down by the area and the points that you receive for these. In the middle of the page, standard deductions, late financial reports or late evaluation data that comes into Auburn University are each deducted 5 points on your scores for that. The biggie on this is not adhering to a corrective action plan that's been put in place will cost 20 points. Something to make clear under priority points at the bottom, we've changed the definition a little bit. You receive an extra 10 points for program expansion in an unserved population or area. So that's a little different than the way we've worded it in the past. But priority points, 10 points, are given if you plan to expand your program or to have a program that works in an unserved population or area. As far as promotion for AdCamp, on this page, you will see the Children's Trust Fund card tag, and where you go to on the website to check on that. The Alabama Income Tax Checkoff, the Honorary or Memorial Fund for a loved one, and the Keepsake Heirloom Birth Certificate. And we have the website for that. So please be involved in each of those. The next page gives you the board of directors and where they are located for each district, and the department heads who represent some of these board members in our meetings. Page 28, you can see the districts that are covered when you're filling out your application. As far as resources, this resource page tells you where you can go for the protective factors training, your mandatory reporter training, your child abuse prevention publications, your information on Gateway and Friends, and then on the DHR Central Registry, this is where it gives you the website where you can go and get the forms that you need for that. And finally, you have our website at www.ctf.alabama.gov and go to the Resources tab for more information. The logic model, each grant has to do a logic model, and the reason for this is that it helps programs identify specific outcomes and indicators of success and evaluation instruments that are appropriate to measuring success, and you have the website for that at the top of the page. Next, we have the definition of ad count budget line items. I'm not going to read through each one of these. Just be aware, again, of your background checks. Number 4, one thing that's, I think, changed this year on cellular phones, instead of giving you a specific amount, we just say a reasonable, appropriate amount per field staff as far as their cost for cell phones each month. Make sure you read under consultants what we mean by consultants, and be aware that a contract is required if you use consultants. Again, equipment that you buy for your program cannot exceed $499 per item, including tax. So please do not extend over that, or the equipment has to return to us at the end of the year, and we don't want that. Again, number 11 on printing, make sure that all printed items include the ad count logo and the Children's Trust Fund logo. Space rental, again, is administrative office space, and again, make sure that a grantee is not renting their own building and being reimbursed from CTF funds. Staff development, transportation to and from staff development days. The only requirement that we have is that you attend our annual grantee training in October. If other trips are going to be taken that's coded as staff development, this must receive prior approval from AdCount to be able to use our funds for this. Again, as far as volunteering kind, number 17, the current hour for a non-professional is $24.69. If it is a professional, like a lawyer or a doctor that's given time, they can be charged at the regular amount that they're charged or paid for in this area. And finally, very importantly, you must fill out this form for verification that someone in your organization was involved in this RFP video. I repeat, your grant application will not be read without this being sent to AdCount. You would mail this verification to Valencia Bolton at ctf.alabama.gov. Make sure you include the date, the name of your organization address, the name of the person or persons that viewed the video, and their job title. And by signing this, you're verifying that you have viewed the RFP video. And please remember to print and sign your name. Again, at the bottom is the address where you send the verification that you watched this to Valencia Bolton. And final reminder, If this is not submitted, your grant will not be read. Again, thank you for those of you returning as grantees, and for new applications. We thank you all for being willing to do what you do to help the children and parents of the state of Alabama. Have a good day.